Hi everyone, good morning all of you. It is the fourth day we are discussing Math in the Seventh House by R.K. Narayan. In the last class we have discussed his married life, how he spent time and his life as a reporter and how he was struggling there. Now let's see what is next.
We are here in page number 45, paragraph number 2. Murders were my standby from Nanjangud and Chamaranagar. At the extreme south of Mysore district, the police brought in a steady stream of murder cases. We have already discussed that Narayanan is working as a reporter in the Justice. His duty was to collect news from Mysore city. At that time, murder cases were increasing day by day. Police were getting enough murder cases. On such occasions, I let myself go. I hung about the mortuary for the post-mortem verdict and the first police report. So, it was Narayan's duty to go to the hospital and to the post-mortem cell and to get the verdict and the first police report. As long as I used the expression alleged liberally, there was no danger of being hauled up for false reporting or contempt of court. That means reporting murders was his specialty. Simply by using the word alleged, he could say anything and escape from any responsibility. He knew lots of police officers, plainclothesmen and informers. Likewise, he knows some other men like president and secretaries of various public bodies. The only intention of them was nothing but getting fame. They need publicity and always sought his favor. Then, quite a few wedding invitations came to me from fond parents hoping for a report and a photograph of the bridal pair in the paper. I should have gladly given all the space available to whoever wanted it. But my news editor, when he did not reject it outright, mutilated and decimated my copy. He compressed my most eloquent descriptions into 2 lines. What did I make out of it all? Narayan was invited to many weddings as the parents wanted free publicity for their marrying children in the paper, but the news editor always reduced his writing to just a couple of lines. Our contract was that I would be paid 3 rupees and 8 annas per column of 21 inches. I fancied that the news I sent would cover at least 15 inches each day and fetch me at least 75 rupees a month. But thanks to the news editor's talent for abridgment, I had to crawl up each day by fractions of an inch. I measured my total in change with a scale at the end of the month and send my bill, and they would invariably doubt and disallow my measurement and send me some arbitrary amount, never more than 30 rupees, often less. Narayan was paid according to the columns he wrote, but the news editor reduced it into 2 or 3 lines. Then what happens? His salary will be cut down. Ultimately, he got a roughly 30 rupees, sometimes less than that. That's all about this paragraph. But I enjoyed this occupation as I came in close in contact with a variety of men and their activities, which was educative. It lasted for about 1 year and might have gone on, perhaps indefinitely, but for a letter I sent to the editor which solved our relationship. Then he says about his job, even though he got only 30 rupees per month, he enjoyed the occupation. It made him familiar with more persons in this world. They were following different activities, which was very educative to him. They had withheld my payment for 3 months, and I wrote to say I'm a writer in contact with many newspapers and periodicals in America and England who make their payments on precise dates. I am not used to delay in payments, to which the editor replied, if you are eminent as you claim to be, you should not mind a slight delay on our part. If you, on the other hand, you could realize that after all you are a correspondent eking out your income with such contributions as we chose to publish, your tone is unwarranted by your circumstances. What was that issue with the editor? They withheld Narayan's salary for 3 months. Then Narayan wrote to them asking about the salary, and he was claiming that he was a writer who is in contact with many of the national and international papers. He said that he has connection with periodicals in America and England as well. In reply to his letter, the editor wrote that he was simply boasting. He was trying to eke out a living like that. He got angry and decided to quit the job at that moment itself. And he want to quit the job when he get another chance. Money was a big worry. When a check was delayed, it caused all kinds of embarrassments for me. My budget was precisely framed. I had to find money to pay for my share of expenses at home, also for face powder or soap that my wife would ask for. I grandly promised her even a sari and I bought her a green one on credit costing about 60 rupees. The shopman agreeing to take installments of 10 rupees on the 4th of every month. If I delayed, a bill collected would appear on the morning of the 6th at our gate demanding the installment. Even though he wanted to quit the job, he remained there for some problems. What was the problem? Nothing. Money was the big problem. If the check was delayed, it caused so many problems in his life because his budget was framed. He has to give his share of expenses at home. He has to spend for his wife expenses like face powder, soap, and all. Once he granted, he promised a sari for his wife. He bought a green sari for installment, and he has agreed that he will pay the 10 rupees per month. It was to be paid on the 4th of every month. If he didn't pay on the 6th of every month, and a man will come to collect the money. The man who came to collect the money was a tall, gaunt man with sunken cheeks and the expressionless face of a corpse. When I heard the clicking of the gate latch, I would tell myself, "Here it comes, my lord," echoing Hamlet. I rushed forward to stop him before my wife or anyone else could see him, and turn him back with soft words, promises, and a small tip for coffee. Until I liquidated this debt, I felt guilty whenever saw my wife in the green sari, as if I had given her a stolen present. What he said was, when the tall man came to collect the money, he would rush to prevent him from meeting his wife and sister, and he sent him back with sweet words and some money for coffee. He didn't pay the installment. So whenever he saw his wife was wearing the green saree, he was totally upset. And he feels like his wife was wearing a stolen piece of saree. Here he says that until I liquidated this debt, that means he didn't pay the installment properly. That's why only he feels that that sari was a stolen piece. It is an important question why he feels bad when he saw his wife in green sari. Okay,
I hope you have understood this much part clearly. Thank you.